Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel where today we are doing a tag video, specifically the info dump book tag. This is originally done by Faye over at Books and Chocoholic, although I saw it on Megan's Reading Revelations, and I will definitely link both down below. But let's just jump right in. And the very first question is, how many books on average do you read per month? And right now, that average for me is about 10 to 12 books. And this is because I am focusing very heavily on reading books from my physical TBR. And because that is a goal of mine for this year, I have actually put aside other things in my life so that I can focus on reading. So it is high, and it will come back down at least a little bit once, my physical TBR isn't quite so overwhelming. Question number 2, how many books are on your TBR list? Well, on my physical TBR shelf, there is about 50 books. On my e-reader, there are about 35 items of varying lengths. On my Goodreads TBR, there's about 190 books. And there is some overlap between those lists. And then aside from all of that, there's about 20 books that I don't have written down anywhere, but I know I want to read. And I think all told, it's probably about 275 things that I want to read that I know of, which is a lot, but also par for the course with me. So probably about 275. Number 3, how are your bookshelves organized? By categories. I have a lot of categories. So first off, the 2 bookshelves that you see behind me are my 2 bookshelves. It is only my books, but they are also the only places where my books exist. But let's go through it from top to bottom. This shelf up here, which you can't see, it is off camera. Those are the books that I need to reread because I just don't know if I love them well enough to keep them yet. So it'll be books that maybe I don't remember what happens in them anymore, and so I don't feel comfortable recommending them. Or it could be something like a series where I read it and I closed the last book and I don't really know how I feel about this. So I will give it another go and see how I feel about it. And if I love it, I'll keep it. And if not, then I'll just let it go. On the top shelf that you can't see on this side are the books that I have read in series that I like well enough to continue, but I don't yet know if I love them. And I just separate them out because I don't want to put them in with the books that I love because I don't know yet if I love them well enough to keep them. The next 2 shelves down on either side, this is my TBR shelves right here. This is why these shelves change all the time. It's because I'm pulling books off of them to read. Over here on this side right here, those are the books for the month that I have either read or DNF'd. And then the 2 books right here, this shelf behind me, and then the two shelves on either side. So a total of 5 shelves plus a little bit. Those are all the books that I love. Those are the books that I absolutely adore. They make me happy. If I pick one up, I'm going to be sitting and reading it for the rest of the afternoon. So I really enjoy them, of course. And then the bottom shelf on this side is nonfiction, graphic novels, journals, puzzle books. And then the bottom shelf on this side is not books at all. It is actually craft supplies because right off screen, right here is my chair in the living room. And because I like to do crafts, especially knitting, while I watch TV or movies, I like to have the craft supplies close at hand. So, question number 4, which genres do you read in the most? Fantasy. Just point blank. I like young adult fantasy. I like adult fantasy, but generally fantasy. I am reading more science fiction, and I am very much enjoying that. I also do read romance, nonfiction, and graphic novels quite a bit, although you guys haven't seen it as much because I haven't had those on my physical TBR as much. And so I usually get those kinds of books from the library, and I'm just not getting as much from the library while I focus on my physical TBR. And then I have started dabbling in horror, but I don't really read almost anything outside of that. Number 5, which genres do you own the most of? Those ones. I mean, fantasy specifically, but also now science fiction, young adult, and adult for both of those categories. Number 6, which is your preferred form of reading between physical, ebook, or audio? And that is physical books. For me, physical books are they're a sensory experience. It's how the type looks on the page, how the page feels when you turn it, the weight of the book, the smell of the paper. It's a thing, and I really enjoy it. I do read ebooks, but I don't, because I do find that they fulfill a specific purpose. Like, it's really great to take an e-reader with you on vacation rather than 10 books. But generally speaking, if I have a choice, it is physical. Number 7, who is your most owned author? Seanan McGuire. So this entire shelf is Seanan McGuire. And that's all that's on there. And I'm running out of room. I don't know what I'm going to do once I read some of the books on my TBR shelf. And just so in case you're curious, this one. That's Mira Grant, which is a pen name for Seanan McGuire. Seanan McGuire owns my wallet. So I really do enjoy her works, and I love rereading them. So it made sense to me to own them. Number 8, describe your favorite writing style. So my favorite writing style tends to be concise and straightforward kind of writing style. I don't necessarily need it super on the utilitarian side, but I don't really like purple prose, because as much as I can appreciate language, I don't love it, and I find that it frequently gets in the way of telling the story. And I don't really like it when authors will take a sentence and pad it out to an entire paragraph. I'd rather they just have the single sentence. So anything that is pretty straightforward and concise and just tells the story, that's kind of what I enjoy. Number 9, which literary device do you like and which do you dislike? Well, the ones that I like and dislike tend to be very similar. So I hate foreshadowing. I hate the clunky foreshadowing where it's just like, and then my life changed, and you're like, okay. Or it's just like, that was the last time I ever saw them. You know, that kind of like really clunky foreshadowing. I really don't like it, because every single time it pulls me out of the story, because I'm immediately thinking, please don't tell me how you're going to tell me the story or what's going to happen in the story. Just tell me the story, right? And so it always pulls me out, and I just don't like that. On the other hand, I really, really appreciate it when authors have a really good idea of their world and their characters and the plot enough to leave clues in the earlier books for revelations that don't happen until way later in the series. So the October Day series does this really, really well. So there's a revelation that's coming, I think, in the next book, book 12 of the series, that I know we started leaving clues about at least in book 3. Maybe earlier, but I know for sure there was some clues left in book 3. But it's like we didn't know they were a clue because there was an alternate explanation, and those kinds of things I just love. So I love it so much because when you go back and reread it, it becomes another experience. You can't ever experience a book for the first time again, but it's almost like a slightly different book because there's so much more that you're catching this time around. And I just absolutely adore that. Next question, number 10. Which character archetype do you like best? I don't really have one. I just like my characters to be good people. Like, I don't do as well with morally gray people, partially because I don't really fully understand motivations. Like, even, like, I can hear, I can, like, know what the motivations are, but I don't necessarily understand them. But, our characters don't necessarily have to do good things all the time, especially if they're in a really tough spot. But I want them to be trying and be genuinely good people. So, good people, that's all. I don't have an archetype otherwise. Number 11, what is your favorite book setting? And that is one I don't have. I don't have a favorite book setting because I just kind of like them all, you know? Like, I don't think I've ever run into a setting that I really detest. So, I guess all book settings are my favorite, or none of them. I don't know. They're all good. And then the last question, number 12, what is your favorite romantic tropes? Now, I've actually talked about this on my channel before, but I will pick probably two of my favorites. And the first is fish out of water. And specifically, so like fish out of water is like, you know, city girl goes into the country, or like a scientist who always works in the lab and does experiments now has to go do presentations to donors and schmooze them, right? Like it's so outside their wheelhouse that they're like uncomfortable. But the specific part, like I like that, but with specifically like the romantic interest sees them floundering and is just like, oh, honey, and just takes them and mother hens them all over the place. I love that so much. And I don't know why, but I really, really do. And then the other trope that I really, really like is pretty specific to heterosexual couples, although I think I would like it with gay couples as well, but specifically with heterosexual couples when it's like a very strong, confident woman who is like having none of your nonsense, and the guy that's never been sassed before in his life. And I love this so much because first of all, I love strong female characters. But second of all, I love it because the guy always has one of two reactions, both of which I love. And the first is like, I have never been sassed like that before in my life, and how dare she? And also I'm kind of slightly turned on. Like the guy is always super confused, like I'm turned on by this. And I love that. And then the other reaction, which I really do appreciate, is the guy who gets sassed and is unabashedly into it. Just like, I have never been sassed before, and that is awesome, and now I need to marry this woman. And I love both of those reactions, so this really, really works for me. But that is it, you guys. So let me know down below. I'm really curious. How many books on average do you guys read per month? This is such a fascinating question, I think. But yes, let me know down below. But that is it, you guys. So until next time, have happy reading, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.